Hey everyone, today I'm going to tell you all about the best Thanksgiving of my life. The year was 2004.
Earlier that month, George W. Bush had somehow been re-elected President of the United States. Earlier that week, Eli Manning made his first start for the New York Giants and finished with a passer rating of 0.0. YouTube wouldn't exist for another 3 months.
For me, it was my second year of college. Now, until I got to college, I'd spent all my Thanksgivings with my family, and we always kind of half-assed it, so it was always kind of lame. Then, in my first year of college, I spent Thanksgiving with one of my friends and his family, who all took Thanksgiving really seriously, and that made it really fucking lame. So, the next year, when my friends tried to rope me into spending Thanksgiving with them, I lied, said that I was going home, when in actuality, I stayed in my dorm, made fajitas, and marathoned Azumanga Daioh. It was the best Thanksgiving of my life.
Azumanga Daioh is about a bunch of high school girls and some of their teachers interacting in short comedic skits. You see, back in the day, people considered Azumanga Daioh to be a comedy, and rightfully so, since many of the skits were legitimately funny. Nobody even dreamed of calling Azumanga Daioh Slice of Life until Lucky Star and its ilk proliferated a few years later, but I digress. Much of the comedy is character-driven, as the characters, rather than being well-rounded and realistic, all have very exaggerated and unique personality types. A typical scene in Azumanga Daioh just throws a bunch of these characters into a common school life situation and sees how these varying personality types sort things out. The other form of humor that Azumanga Daioh often brings to the table is a really quirky, bizarre, sort of surreal comedy that's most often seen through the eyes of a character nicknamed Osaka. You end up with things like Otosan, or Chiyo's detachable flying pigtail things that make both Osaka's character and Azumanga Daioh really unique. Now, as with any comedy, not all the jokes worked. While the majority of the scenes were amusing in some way or another, many of the scenes were just kind of boring, some were really weird, and some were even just flat out annoying. From what I can recall about the show, I'd attribute most of the annoying scenes to the difficulty and challenges of adapting the manga into the anime form. For example, some of the scenes just seemed to go on way too long. There were some scenes in which the characters could seem to find no other way to express themselves than by screaming at the top of their lungs. And there are the usual problems of things that appear in the manga to be simultaneous, having to be sequential in the anime form, which often interferes with the delivery of jokes and also introduces the problem of punchline repetition. I was looking into Kiyohiko Azuma's other famous work, Yotsuba Ampersand or whatever it's called, and why it hasn't been adapted into an anime yet. Well, this is specifically due to the wishes of the author himself, who doesn't want it to be adapted into an anime because he thinks it might have a lot of adaptation problems. If he's saying this based on some of the adaptation issues I sensed in Azumanga Daioh, I think it's a shame, but I can also see where he's coming from. Now let's get back to the characters. My favorite was Osaka, and I also liked Sakaki, who was on the proper side of the cute versus cool debate. Back when I watched Azumanga Daioh, I didn't think there was any debate as to whether cuteness or coolness was better. And it turns out I was right. There really is no contest between cuteness and coolness. I just happened to pick the side that would get totally obliterated. Probably my third favorite character would be the lesbian, and after that would be Chiyo. Although I don't care for the whole cuteness angle, she did have a lot to bring to the show. After that it gets kinda iffy. Yukari-sensei and Tomo were often kind of annoying, while Yomi and Kagura were often kind of pointless. Yama-sensei was cool, but her role was really limited, and Kimura-sensei, being the only male character, was horribly misandrist. One of the things Azumanga Daioh really does right is depicting the passage of time. You get to see all the students moving up grade by grade until they finally graduate at the end of the show. It's a refreshing change from your typical comedy setup, in which everything is more or less reset at the end of each episode. The music of Azumanga Daioh, in terms of the opening, the ending, and the background music, all have a quirkiness about them that really suit the show, though you'd probably never want to listen to them elsewhere.
Now for the ultimate question. Do I still recommend Azumanga Daioh in 2014? Back in 2004, after watching it, I recommended it to my brother and my roommate, which says a lot about just how much I liked it. Nowadays, I will still recommend it, but much less strongly, because a lot of the elements that made Azumanga Daioh unique back in 2004 have since been copied and beaten to death. So, give it a shot, but at the same time, don't be afraid to drop it just because it's now considered a classic. Anyway, that's all for now. This is Bakuraptor, signing out.